Hello, and welcome to episode 6 of the Forward Progress Football Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Party, and today we're going to be going over the biggest remaining needs for each of the NFC teams. So let's dive right on into it. So before we get on into the biggest remaining needs, I want to talk about the two biggest storylines from this past week. Luckily, it's been a bit calmer than the past couple weeks have been, so there's only really two big pieces of news I feel that broke. The first being Bruce Arians retiring from coaching but staying within the Bucs organization. I don't think this will change too much. Todd Bowles will just take over as the head coach, and I feel like Tom Brady and was much more of what made the Bucs be the Bucs these past 2 years. Obviously, Bruce Arians was contributing to that and helpful, but I feel like Todd Bowles should be able to take over pretty seamlessly, and that won't affect too much. Good opportunity for Bowles. Glad to see him be a head coach again. He's clearly very, very talented as a defensive mind, and he fizzled out with the Jets, but who doesn't fizzle out with the Jets at this point? And then the second thing broke just like maybe an hour or two ago was Bobby Wagner signing a 5-year, $50 million deal with the Los Angeles Rams. I'm honestly guessing that this is going to be one of those where it's like the last 2 years or so are void years. That just seems to be every contract, especially for these older players. But obviously a good move for the Rams, showing up that linebacker spot, bringing in experience, if nothing else, to help teach their younger guys. They didn't really have anyone there before they made this move. And yeah, I think he obviously knows that conference very well, so it's good to keep that he stays, or that division. So it's good he's staying in there and will be able to contribute to that Rams defense pretty well. It's also kind of an interesting choice by the Rams, though, because they don't, this is the first big investment they've made at linebacker in years. They're more the type to just, use converted safeties from college or just late round guys. Last time I remember them making a move for a linebacker was when they traded for Kenny Young using Marcus Peters for Kenny Young. And even then, that was just Marcus Peters was definitely on the way out at that point. So it's kind of just oh yeah, might as well get something back for him. So in today's episode, I'm just going to go by team, division by division, and tell you guys what I believe are the three biggest holes remaining on the roster for this upcoming season. So, for example, in my most recent mock draft, I had the Buccaneers picking a quarterback. I'm not going to put quarterback as one of the top three positions of need for the Buccaneers because they have Tom Brady. So I'm only going to talk about this upcoming season and where I think that they should look to patch up some things in the draft or remaining in free agency, and whether or not I think they're going to be able to do it. So starting off with the NFC North, we're going to go with the Bears. I put their biggest position of weakness being the offensive line. Just left tackle to right tackle, there's two guys who you probably want starting. Jenkins, just because he's young and second round pick last year. Hopefully he can step up, start producing good. And Whitehair's just been kind of solid since he's got there. Everyone else could be upgraded over. They don't have a first round pick. Maybe they addressed it in the second round. They have 2 second round picks thanks to the Khalil Mack trade. We'll see if they do, if they are able to. I think someone on day 2, though, either second or third round, would be able to start on this team. So it's likely that they'll get some help, but I don't think that they're going to be able to completely solve this position. Wide receiver I put as their second biggest need. Once again, day 2, the wide receiver class this year is kind of deeper, so maybe they can get someone in the third round who can come in and start. Right now they got Mooney, they got Equanimeous St. Brown, and Byron Pringle. Mooney obviously is going to start for them, and if you can get someone to start over St. Brown and Pringle, at least one of those guys, that would be good, because St. Brown and Pringle are more of 4 or 5 type of guys, not 2, 3. And then cornerback, same thing. You got one side locked up with Isaiah Johnson, second round pick from a couple years ago. Is it Isaiah Johnson, actually, now that I think about it? Jalen Johnson, that's my bad. So you got second round pick Jalen Johnson from, I believe, 2 years ago. Should be a starter there. Rookie year was really good. Second year, up and down, but he should be at least a solid, capable starter for you, especially year 3. Cornerbacks take a bit of time. Across from him, though, you don't really got no one. Slot corner against you don't really got no one. So hopefully they can be able to address it, but I don't know if they will be able to, just because they have these other needs that with deep position groups they can get pretty solid contributors versus just reaching for someone. So I feel like that they're not really going to be able to address this need. So second up, we got the Detroit Lions. I put their biggest weakness as linebacker. Linebacker, again, is not the most important position on the defense. Probably is actually the least important, and it's the most difficult to play in the modern NFL. However, the guys they have right now are just not cutting it. Alex Anzalone, and they re-signed their old first-round draft pick, who was a bust, Jared Davis. However, as I said, linebacker isn't super important, so I don't think that they'll address it day one. They might with the 32nd overall pick, depends on how people fall, but day two early, I could see them addressing it, especially as I said, if people are falling, they could be like, okay, draft someone who they want to get a fifth-year option on with the last pick of the first round, and then draft that linebacker with the second pick of the second round. Wide receiver, I put as their second biggest need. I see them addressing that in the draft. Last year, they kind of built through the trenches in the draft. This year, I project them more building the outside up. Chark and Amon-Ra St. Brown should be a solid outside receiver and the slot receiver. But now you got Josh Reynolds lined up to be your other outside receiver, and obviously that's not ideal. You could get someone at the end of like round pick number 32 or early round 2, even as I said later day 2 with like round 2 and 3, you could see them grabbing someone. As I said, this is a deeper class. And then quarterback, I could see them addressing. I don't think anyone will solve their need, but I could see them at least like addressing it for the future right now. Like Goff, as we know, isn't the best quarterback. He's also not the worst, so I just don't see a rookie being able to come in and do better than him. But I could see them being like, okay, let's draft someone for the future. Number 2 overall is a bit rich for me. I'm hearing a lot of Malik Willis there. I don't know if I think they have too many other holes on this roster to address, like wide receiver or just getting the best player available. Like, I'm just putting the top 3 needs here. They obviously have the second overall pick for the reason they aren't a good football team right now. But I could see them addressing quarterback and just doing it for the future. All right, so the Packers, I have their number 1 need as wide receiver. Right now, their top 3 receivers are Allen Lazard, Winfrey, not going to lie, don't know that name, and Randall Cobb. You also got Amari Rodgers as a backup slot option. Yeah, those are just not, like, that might be the worst. Them or the Falcons are the worst receiving core in the NFL. But they do have 2 first-round picks. I expect them to use at least one of those on wide receiver. They also have 2 second-round picks. Once again, expect them to use one on wide receiver. They should get at least 2 quality wide receivers in this draft. If not, they still might have the worst receiving core in the league. But linebacker is their second need, mostly linebacker too. Obviously, they have Campbell there, who played like really well last year, all-pro for them. So I don't really expect them to address it in round 1. Who knows, though? Packers are kind of wild cards with that. But definitely in day 2, I could see them in the second or third round drafting a linebacker to be Campbell's running mate. And then O-line, I just think that they could upgrade over Royce Newman or John Runyon, one of those guard spots, or put Jenkins at one of those guards and move and get like a right tackle. Right now, Elton Jenkins should be the right tackle based off this current line. He can play any position on the offensive line. That versatility is really good for the Packers, because that just means, okay, just draft the best offensive lineman available regardless of position. It gives them that flexibility. I could, though, see them, because they have 5 at least decent offensive linemen, then just being like, okay, we have other positions of need that we need to address first, so let's get that instead. And lastly, for the NFC North, with the Vikings, I have cornerback as their biggest need. Cameron Dantzler is good. He should be a starter for them. He kind of fell out of favor with Mike Zimmer, but produced well whenever he was there. So hopefully this new coaching staff will like him, keep him there, and they get someone like Trent McDuffie, as I had in my latest mock, to be alongside him. I do think that they will address this need and be able to kind of solve it if they use their first round pick. If not, um, I don't know what they're really gonna do. Like they need a second cornerback to trot out there, you know. O line, I center and guard. I see them needing help at. Bradbury's just been a disappointing first round pick. All this hype coming out, and first round pick or centers are almost never first round picks. So just kind of him being like a meh bottom line center. Definitely could use to upgrade on that. Maybe day 2, day 3. And then Wyatt Davis, he was the third round pick last year. Uh, High upside, so maybe they do like him. Maybe they will play him, and he'll continue to develop here. So we'll see if they do end up addressing O line. I don't see them drafting anyone to be an immediate upgrade, unless they use their first round pick, which I don't think they should. But I could see them drafting someone to develop and replace Bradbury. And then safety, I put as their final need. Bynum was a fourth round pick last year. They expect him to step up for their free safety role and play good. We'll see if they upgrade over that. They could, depending on how, once again, the draft falls. Typically, how they're picking kind of earlier in the second round, that's where a lot of safeties go, so they can get someone there. They also need a long-term answer for Harrison Smith. Like, he's not getting any younger. He's still playing good, so that's good to see. But get someone in now who can learn under Smith and then eventually take his mantle up. So with the NFC East, I'm going to start off with the Commanders, and I'm putting their top need as safety. This roster doesn't really have a lot of glaring needs, so safety, while it's like all right, I just think that they could upgrade on it and make it like really good. Right now they have Cameron Curl, Bobby McCain. Once again, like neither of them are bad, but getting a true like free safety type, if like there's a lot of rumors that like Hamilton could be slipping right now just because of his poor performance in the combine and stuff. So if they got him, that would be a great safety duo, him and Curl. If not, someone like I forget his name, Scene or Jalen Petrie. So I could see them being able to address this, but they also might not want to, just because, like, as I said, they already have like 2 decent ones. There's better that they could do. And then my second need for them is linebacker. Once again, decent there. They just picked Jalen Davis last year to be the linebacker. Spent a first round pick on him, so I don't really see them trying to address linebacker. And then Cole Holcomb is their linebacker, or is their Mike linebacker, and those two should be pretty decent for them. Davis definitely was, I think it was Jamean, not Jalen, my bad. But Davis was definitely disappointing for a first round pick, but linebackers kind of take a second to grow into themselves, learn NFL offenses. Some of them never do. They're just targeted so much with the modern NFL offense, like especially with like Shanahan scheme. And so we'll see if Davis can be it. I don't think that they will address it or solve this. I think that they're going to trust on their guys to kind of develop and grow more. And then wide receiver, I put as their number 3 need. They could use an outside number 2. Right now they just have McLaurin and Samuel, I think, are really good. Should be like 11 personnel. Diami Brown is also out there, and he was really good in college at UNC. So we'll see if he can, like, now that he's year 2, seeing more targets, if he can actually like develop into a solid number 2 alongside Terry McLaurin. But I also think that it wouldn't hurt them at all to draft one in one of the first 2 days. And I'd be kind of surprised if they didn't. Just as I said, there aren't too many holes on this roster, so I could see them going there. And then the Dallas Cowboys up next. I put their top need as interior defensive line. They kind of just haven't really gotten anyone in years there. They keep drafting guys in like the 3rd, 4th round. This year I could see them going in the 1st round if Wyatt falls. I don't know if Devontae Wyatt now will fall, just because like he had such a good combine. I don't think Davis is going to be there either, out of Georgia. So they might wait till day 2 to address it. They might try to reach Travis Jones. I just don't see how they can go again not drafting a wide receiver or a interior defensive lineman in the first 2 days. I put edge as their other need. Once again, I think like one of the first 2 days, In the first 3 rounds, they're going to be drafting edge, just because you want to be able to free up Parsons to do whatever is best for the defense instead of being like, man, we don't have an edge, so we need to put him at edge. Instead, they can be like, oh, in this formation, let's put him at edge alongside Lawrence and whoever you draft. Because Fowler has just been a bust. He's bounced around. This is his 4th different team now. And they have a couple other like options there, but no one who the defense will be or the offense will be really scared of other than Parsons and Lawrence right now. So, yeah. And then safety, this is the 3rd position weakness I put for them. Malik Hooker and Jerron Kearse. Just, once again, nothing special about these safeties. Kind of the same as the Commanders. Sorry. And they just aren't the best. Hooker, 1st-round pick, could be called a bust, was replaced in like 3 years out of for Indianapolis. And then Kearse has just been very solid since he's been there, so I don't see them upgrading on him at all. Maybe they fall in love with a safety and draft him at the end of the 1st there to replace Hooker, but I don't really see any upgrades, but I could see some like long-term replacements them going after in the later rounds. All right, so for the Eagles, I put their biggest weakness as cornerback. They need a number 2 alongside Darius Slay right now. Right now they have Zach McPherson. I believe he was a rookie last year. Either way, not much playing time, not much experience. That's just a question mark. So you hope that they address that. And then long-term wise, they need a replacement for Slay. He's obviously playing towards the top of his game right now, but he's not going to be able to play like this forever. Cornerbacks kind of drop off fast. Safety, is Kevon Wallace the answer alongside Anthony Harris? And also, is Anthony Harris the answer? Like, he's not generally the best. He kind of like fell off after that one really good year in Minnesota. So we'll see what they do there. They have 3 first-round picks and then 2 second-round picks, I want to say. Let me double-check that. No, just 1 second-round pick. But still, they have 3 first-round picks, so we'll see how they address. I think that they will address at least one of these 2 positions between cornerback and safety, maybe both of them, but at least one of them with those 4 picks in the first 2 rounds. And then wide receiver, I definitely see them addressing just between Smith, Rager, and then whoever they bring in now. I think that could be a really good wide receiver trio, just because Rager just wasn't what you expected coming out. So, and they got a couple smaller bodies now. They don't really have any of the big body, just big body possession type receivers, or even just bigger body types in general. So I could see them if Drake London falls, Traylon Burks, Christian Watkins, any of those guys in the first, maybe 2nd round for Watkins. We'll see how that all plays out, but I do definitely see them addressing getting a 3rd wide receiver in the first 3 days that will get significant playing time. And then lastly, for the NFC East, I have the New York Giants. Biggest position of weakness, O-line. We've heard this all offseason, and they've kind of like taken some hits at it, signing John Feliciano and something Glowinski. What's his name? The guy out of Indianapolis. Mike Glowinski, yeah. And so I can see them getting like a guard or center in 2nd round. Feliciano has positional flexibility, so he'll probably play one of those. But I would be really shocked if they don't draft a tackle with one of their first, with their number 5 or number 7 overall pick. Edge is their 2nd position of weakness. Once again, I expect them to draft one of the top edges, especially if like Kayvon Thibodeau is there at 5. I could see them grabbing a tackle to make sure the Panthers don't pick one behind them. Panthers draft whatever tackle they draft, and then Thibodeau is just sitting there for them at 7. If not, I could see them also going with like a Trayvon Walker, George Karlaftis. Just one of these. They need help along the edge pretty desperately. And then cornerback, I put it as their last position. Dory Jackson, James Bradbury, they're good. They've been trying to move on from Bradbury all offseason, though, so I could see them definitely moving on there. First round, again, like maybe Thibodeau's not there. Maybe they don't like Thibodeau as much or any of these other edge rushers. And so they go tackle and Derek Stingley or Ahmad Gardner. I could definitely see that as an option too. So all three of these positions I think are likely to be addressed. I don't know what combination they'll do with the 5 and 7 overall, but they also have the second round pick. So we'll see how they play that out. But I do expect them to be able to at least, if not completely solve those positions, bring in some reinforcements that will help. So in the NFC South, we're going to start off with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The biggest position of weakness I put as guard, and just the individual left guard. That's just the only hole left on this offense after Ali Marpet retired young. Could see them drafting like Zion Williams or Green out of Texas A&M. Kevin Green out of Texas A&M. If one of those guys slips to them. If not, as I said, like I think going quarterback would be a genius move for them. So maybe they address this in like day 2 with a Parham or someone of that like quality. Safety, their strong safety is now a position of weakness now that Jordan Whitehead's gone. So I could see them going somewhere in the second, third round. As I said, like safeties are typically like that's more of the hot spot for them. They do pick later in the second round. So maybe like a lot of the better safeties will be gone by then. So we'll see if they're able to address it. Less confident in them being able to address that, definitely. And then interior defensive line. This isn't a huge need for them, but they could just use someone to go alongside Vita Vea and just like get him some reps off or just play alongside him. This is just a pretty loaded roster, so I was like, okay, this is like the only other position where I could see them realistically addressing. And then the Atlanta Falcons, I have their number one position of weakness as wide receiver. As I said, either these guys or the Packers have the worst core in the league. Olamide Zacchaeus is the only like viable option who should be getting targets on any other team right now. I could see them going at number 8. I think in my latest draft I did, and they could also just go best player available. See that this is like a multi-year thing. I saw a mock draft I really liked recently where they actually trade back, get more picks, and draft Jameson Williams, who's going to be hurt at the beginning. So it's like, oh, they're just not getting their first round pick and therefore losing more games. I do think that they try to address it at least, if not with number 8 overall, then for sure with their second round pick, just because no way you can trout out Zacchaeus and then Pitts as your only receiving options for Marcus Mariota. Second position of need I put as edge, Lorenzo Gardner, and I mess up this name a lot, Adetokunbo Ogundenji. I don't know if that's how you say it. 5th round pick out of Vanderbilt. No. Notre Dame last year. 5th round pick, and then a former 3rd round pick from the Giants who couldn't make their edge roster. That's not going to cut it. If they don't go off or wide receiver, I expect them to go edge with the first pick, with their 8th overall pick, and then wide receiver in the second round. So I do think that they'll address wide receiver and edge. They will not be able to solve it. They need 3 wide receivers and 2 edges, and there's just no way they can solve all of that. But they will at least, I believe, get some help for it. And then safety, they have so many other holes. I don't think that they're going to be able to address it. But right now they got Hawkins and Harris, just low-level guys. And yeah, I don't think, unless Kyle Hamilton falls, I don't think that they should address it just because they need so many other positions, and safety is a bit of a lower value. So Panthers, biggest need, O-line. I swear they need to go O-line. They need to help out Darnold this year. And whoever their future quarterback is, they can't draft a quarterback. I put that as their second need. They can't draft someone number 6 overall and put them behind this offensive line with these wide receivers. Like, they aren't the worst, but they aren't the best right now. This offense just isn't set up to succeed. So I think that they need to build it up a bit more before they throw someone else out there. So yeah, those top two picks, O line, they better address. I think they will address, and then quarterback they need, but I don't think that they will address. And the third position of weakness, I put tight end. Tommy Tremble, just like okay, he was like a day three pick last year. Um, oh man, they just re-signed Ian Thomas for like way too much money, so they probably won't address. But we'll see. They should at least try to get a body in there to compete. This tight end class does seem like a bit deeper. Lots of good athletes and stuff. So we'll see if they try to pick someone up, be a tight end three who works his way up the roster. Next up, we got the New Orleans Saints. I put their biggest position of weakness as wide receiver. Right now, they got Michael Thomas. They got Traquan Smith, Marquez Callaway. Like, okay, yeah, Michael Thomas obviously good, one of the top 10 receivers in the league. Was out all of last year, and they kind of had like a down year the year before, but he should, if healthy, bounce back well. Callaway had a really good preseason last year, didn't really do much after that, so, and then Traquan Smith is just kind of like occasionally catches a deep ball, and they just need something more, some more consistency, a better playmaker. I definitely see them going there in the first round, if not maybe like the second round. I just don't see them not addressing this position, so I do think that I think it's likely that they address it and try to solve it, and I think getting another receiver in there could make this wide receiver core pretty good. Like, that pushes down Callaway to be your third option, Smith to be your fourth, and that's not bad for a third, fourth, and then MT as your number one obviously isn't bad. Safety, you got Marcus May. He should be good. You just paid him a lot of money, so hopefully he is. Daniel Sorensen, he should be bad. He's been bad on the Chiefs. Don't know how we were starting for so long, so you need to get an upgrade over that. And then the third position I put as offensive line. Andres Beast, he's somehow a Pro Bowl every other year or something. Don't know how. He's just a meh guard. Cesar Ruiz, first round pick a couple years ago, just hasn't kind of come in yet. Maybe this is the year he doesn't, maybe not. And then James Hurst has been like a swing tackle for years. Finally gets his opportunity with Teron Armstead being injured, and he should be solid for this next year. But he also is just getting older. So those are three positions that aren't set in stone for the future, you know. And then finally we got the NFC West, starting off with the Cardinals. I put that they need a cornerback as number one need. Marco Wilson, second round pick last year, and then Byron Murphy. Was he a first round pick? If not, he was a second round pick. Those are two good cornerbacks, but Murphy mostly plays a slot. Wilson is young and has a lot of development to do, so they need another one in on the outside. Where they're picking is kind of a good spot for Andrew Booth, Kaiir Elam. Maybe they go with someone else, depends on how obviously the board falls, and I could see them though most likely addressing this position in the first 2 days. Interior offensive line is pretty weak. Pugh and Hudson are old, and Josh Jones is young but inexperienced and hasn't really developed too much. So we'll see. I think if Zion Johnson is there or Green out of A&M. Let me make sure it's Kevin Green. Kenyon Green, my bad. So Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M or Zion Johnson out of Boston College. If either of those guys are there, I think jump on them. Maybe you go with Linderbaum if he's there. Hudson, I'm pretty sure was drafted as a guard, so you could move him out, or just Linderbaum's kind of small arm, so I don't know if he'd be able to transition to guard for a year or two until Hudson retires. So we'll see how that whole situation plays out. And then wide receiver, they need a third option. Hopkins, obviously a lead on the outside, top 3 receiver in the league. Rondell Moore is a really good slot receiver, but he's only 5'7" or something. He's a small guy. Don't really want him on the outside. That's not really his game anyways. So you just need someone to go opposite of Hopkins. And as I said, this receiver class is deeper, so I could see them definitely addressing that. 49ers. I put their top position of weakness as interior offensive line. Um, all three of them in the middle are either older or they just aren't that good. So I could see them definitely addressing. They have three day two picks between like the second and third round. I definitely expect them to grab someone and then upgrade over, probably upgrade over McKivitz or whoever they're going to be putting out at left guard. I'm expecting them to get a day two guy to go in there instead, or use their second round pick from last year. What was his name? Let me look this up. Banks. Put Banks in at guard instead. But that's so like Max Old, not getting any better. Daniel Brunskill is not the best. So I could still see them addressing even if they do believe that Banks is ready to start next year. Safety is the number 2 position of weakness. George Odom, Jimmy Ward, like they nothing special. Once again, similar to Cowboys, similar to Commanders. I don't see them being able to get an immediate upgrade. Maybe over George Odom. Maybe they find someone who just kind of like explodes onto the scene. But likely that's going to be their duo. And then like one or both of them won't be replaced down the line. And then cornerback I put as the third need. They really need a slot corner. Mosley and Ward are solid. They should be good on the outside as long as neither of them get hurt. But they need a nickel, as I said. And then they were one of the teams hit hardest, especially in the cornerback position last year, by injury. So they probably want to get some depth there. And I would be shocked if they didn't draft like 1 or 2 cornerbacks early, just with how badly their depth got hit last year. So next up, we got the Rams. I put their number 1 position of need as edge. You got Leonard Floyd and John Holland right now. Floyd's got the big money, but he's mostly just a name. Playing alongside Aaron Donald helps him be a lot more productive. And they probably won't get an immediate upgrade, but they can get someone to groom down the line. Someone like how they got Ebukam a couple years ago. I could definitely see them doing something along those lines. Guard, you just got an unknown at right guard with Bobby Evans. Let me make sure it's Bobby. First names are a lot tougher than last names. So you just see the last names on the jersey and you're like, oh yeah, this is like Evans. And especially with like offensive linemen and stuff, backup offensive lineman, this is going to be this guy's first year starting. Yeah, Bobby Evans. Whew, I didn't know that. Okay, so yeah, Bobby Evans is just going to be his first year starting. I think that they draft someone later. They typically, they have been doing this, drafting guys in like the day 3 and just kind of developing them so that when the last guy they drafted in day 3 leaves, they're able to replace him. They didn't do that with Brian Allen. They decided to re-sign him, but that's what they've kind of been doing with everyone other than Andrew Whitworth, who just retired and is replaced by Joseph Noteboom. And then cornerback I put as their last need. So David Long and then whatever Rochelle. They aren't. Let me get his full name. Robert Rochelle is not really scaring anyone. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey is, and he kind of just makes the rest of their secondary better. But they should like at least get like a later round guy. Once again, they've been similar to how they've been doing with their offensive line. They've just kind of been cycling through these later guys and making them work, getting them paid. Troy Hill 2 years ago, Darius Williams last year. Looks like Long is the next guy to step up and do that. David Long Jr. played well last year in his limited time, and he will likely be the starter next year. I don't see them getting an immediate upgrade over him. Maybe they can get someone to start in the slot over Rochelle, or they've been putting Jalen Ramsey on the slot a lot, so going outside over Rochelle. But yeah, we'll see how they do that. I don't think that they'll be able to address it with an upgrade in the draft. And then for the Seahawks, I put their number 1 need as quarterback. Drew Lock just ain't it. Like, we've seen enough of him with a great supporting cast in Denver to know that he's just not the future. And if he's not the future there, he's definitely not the future here in Seattle. I don't think that they'll address it in the draft. I just think that they have too many other holes on the roster, and they understand that. Um, but I could see them going after Baker either through trade, or if the Browns just get tired of it and cut Baker. Um, if they cut Baker, I don't know if Baker would want to sign with Seattle, but definitely if with a trade, like just trade like a late round draft pick, day three at this point, and take the salary hit, and he could be a really solid starter for them. Like I don't think Baker's bad. He was playing injured last year, and the year before that, he looked pretty good down the stretch. It just who knows what's going on, and if his mentality like is still gonna be there. He's always like played with this kind of underdog mentality, and so hopefully this being rejected by Cleveland like this roughly will help him like get that again because he was the number one overall pick Heisman winner. So that underdog story kind of fell by the wayside when he was before a walk on undersized guy who no one knew about. So the second chance I think he could get in Seattle could help him a lot. He's got good receivers there with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Um, and yeah, I think that if the Seahawks were to adjust the quarterback position, it should be Baker Mayfield. Offensive line, I think their best option at number 9 should be a tackle. The top 3 guys will likely be gone, which sucks because obviously we would want one of them. If they are there, then great, grab them up. If not, maybe you could try to trade down or just don't risk it. Grab Bernard Raymond or Trevor Penning, whichever you like better, and just go from there. Or maybe you just want to get Zion Johnson, just a more surefire upgrade, even though guard is a less valuable position. And then edge is the last position. They don't really have anyone there. They just got Uchenna and Wosu. Uchenna and Wosu, my bad. He's solid. Once again, nothing special. Just kind of like a number 2 type of guy. And they got a second, fifth round pick from a couple of years ago. Guys who they're trying to develop, but they've never really been good at developing guys since the Bennett and Averill days. So we'll see if they're able to, but I doubt they will. So instead, I think like their best option in this deep draft class, draft someone early in the top of the second round. They have multiple second round picks, so they can do that. Maybe like a Drake Jackson out of USC. But yeah, so that's the whole NFC. Those are my biggest remaining positions of need, and whether or not like how they can address it, and whether or not I think they will or do. Let me know what you guys think. You can like, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube. Leave a review, a rating on Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever. You can email me. I think I got this wrong last time. It's football or forward progress football podcast at gmail.com. And then you can also message me or add me at Twitter, FPF underscore podcast at Gmail, or just FPF underscore podcast for the Twitter. And that'll do it for this episode. See you next week when I go over the AFC's positions of weakness.